Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. I'm gonna wait to get into the nitty gritty at like 9. I won't start and just be like, all right, we're all gonna learn about psychology in 40 minutes starting now. But have you guys had fun so far?
Yes.
What's been, just scream out your favorite part of the show so far.
Booty.
Booty, yes. I've thwapped a lot of ass this weekend already. It's been a great weekend. Has anybody been to the dungeon or the dungeon experience? Woo! Oh, I saw a cute little woo. That was a good one. Well, I am glad. Hopefully, I can't bring the dungeon experience into the seminar hall, but I can tell you guys all about it, or at least what goes on up here during a dungeon experience. I'm gonna give some people some more time to load in, but I'm super excited to be here for my 3rd time. So, this is the first time this has been a seminar though, so I'm really, really stoked. But if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna hydrate before the clock ticks to 9. Everybody should be drinking water this weekend, by the way. This is me being a femdom at all of you. Drink your damn water. All right, anyway. Well, hold on. Okay, wait, that sounds like brat encouragement. To follow your dom's rules, but fuck time. You don't want rewards? Excuse me. That's how rewards happen. Boo. Punishments. There's a difference between punishment and punishment, but that's a different lesson. Anyways, let's learn about your brain on BDSM, everybody. Anybody who's coming in, feel free, make yourself at home. But we're going to be going over what chemicals happen during BDSM scenes, why mental health matters in BDSM, all about dom space and all about subspace. And even though I don't have a slide on it, if I have time, I will be talking about switch space, because in this house, switches are valid. It doesn't make you any more dominant. It doesn't make you any less dominant. It doesn't make you any more submissive. It doesn't make you any less submissive. It is natural. What goes on in our brain during BDSM? I know what y'all are thinking. That's a literal image of our noggin up there. And y'all weren't expecting this probably when you saw the Commandant on Exxxotica's website, but hi, we're getting real nerdy and dirty. Please feel free to take pictures. I welcome it, I encourage it. Knowledge is power and it's free. But a lot goes on in our noggin during BDSM. So we humans have been practicing pain-induced pleasure practices as soon as the 3rd century. So for some of us, this is possibly hardwired in, and that is a super fascinating, exciting thing. But to explain the science behind this, we have an incredibly ancient interconnected pleasure circuit in our brains called the ventral tegmental area. Let me read normally. Becoming the active trigger of release of dopamine within the nucleoaccumbens. And dopamine means pleasure. I'm sure you guys have heard the term dopamine junkie before. Welcome. That's probably why a lot of people do BDSM. It's probably why a lot of people get addicted to BDSM, because that's also a factor too. Let us move on. Also, thank you, Google, for the brain image. It was very hard to find each individual area I wanted to point out. But what is dopamine? So, does anybody know, just in general, how many people, show of hands, what is dopamine? Do you know what that does? Do you know what it is? All right, cool. So we've got some brain nerds in here. I like it. I mean it with all of the love in my heart. But dopamine is our brain's feel-good chemical. It's released anytime our brain recognizes something as a reward. It controls your memory, your mood, your sleep process, learning abilities. It's a lot. Oh, your motor skills, your dopamine levels can affect your motor skill movements. There is so much in kink that activates dopamine. I mean, for myself, pegging, that is a dopamine and serotonin drip for me. I could do it all day like a rabbit. It is so fun for me. That is dopamine. Now we're moving on to the good serotonin. Show of hands, who all knows what serotonin is? Ooh, okay. Who all has heard the word serotonin for memes?
Oh, for memes.
Memes, okay, I saw like one hand. That maybe our feeds are a little bit different. But serotonin is a neurotransmitter that works hand in hand with dopamine. So you could honestly look at dopamine and serotonin like close cousins. They aren't the exact same, but they can elicit the same-ish effects. So serotonin is what carries messages from your brain to your nervous system. So if you have clinical depression, say, you naturally lack serotonin, so therefore you might drop harder. But a lot of people don't factor that in. They're just like, oh, I'm just depressed after a scene, and because I have clinical depression, this is normal. Although it could be normal for you, it could still be managed as long as you know what it is and you know how severe it is for you. We will be talking about drops just a little bit later. Serotonin it's responsible for mood, let me guess again, sleep, your internal body temperature. It controls a lot. Serotonin is also what gives us all the hornies when we're raging for that itch that needs just to be scratched a little bit. Yeah, that's serotonin. So now let's talk about adrenaline. I'm sure all of us here, who knows what adrenaline is? Show of hands. That's more hands. Beautiful. Have you, just again, we can do another show of hands. Have you ever gone on like a roller coaster and your heart's thumping? Because it's a really dangerous roller coaster. You've gotten that rush through your veins and you're suddenly awake. Have you, show of hands, who has felt that awakeness before? A lot more hands popped up. That, my friends, is adrenaline. There's a term called adrenaline junkie, and a lot of us BDSM and power players, power exchange players, pain seekers, we're all just seeking a little bit of adrenaline. But adrenaline is the chemical that triggers your body's fight or flight responses. So this is formed, and I'll point because my kidneys have seen a lot of work recently because we love being 28. Anyway, your adrenaline comes from these Frito bugle looking guys up here called the adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands is what it travels all the way up to your noggin, and it makes the adrenaline flow. And then your noggin sends it everywhere else and makes the sensations go through your body as such. So, for some important things on this handy dandy paragraph, even although I do urge you take all the pictures of it that you want, adrenaline can cause your heart rate to increase and your pupils to dilate. So doms and tops out there, take note of that. If your bottom or sub is going through a rush of adrenaline, their pupils will be dilated. They might be a little shaky. They might be a little wobbly because they're rushing. They've got a lot of chemicals rushing through them. And adrenaline is one of the ones that has the most physical effects to it. You can see adrenaline in a way. It has physical symptoms of it. Moving on, let's go to also cortisol, because that also comes from, I'll point again to my lovely kidneys, the bugle-shaped thing on top of the kidney. Cortisol also pumps out of that bad boy too. Cortisol is, I'm going to use quotes because stress. This is your stress hormone. It is what allows our bodies to remain on high alert after our fight or flight. So those of us who are, sometimes you'll want to combat the situation head on, sometimes you'll want to just run away. So that's what we mean by fight or flight. You either want to fight the situation or you want to run away. So with cortisol, normally that presents in the fighter type, where you are remaining on high alert after adrenaline has been seized through your veins. So right after adrenaline settles in, then you get the cortisol. And what happens with that, you start to feel like a little bit of a come down, not necessarily a drop, just a little bit of a come down, but you're still focused. DOMs tend to call it tunnel vision. If you're in DOM space, and subs actually call it tunnel vision, if you're in either one of those headspaces, cortisol is the chemical that can cause frenzy states to happen, where you get a little too silly on the silly goose juice in the BDSM scene. But Those who might have unstable levels of cortisol can appear in high blood pressure, osteoporosis, a person with a uterus's menstrual cycle, or libido. It also, Addison's disease, anxiety, depression. There's a lot of things can happen when you have low cortisol levels. So now onto one of the most fascinating ones to me, because the endorphins are like, those are the ones, if you could imagine, because I like this photo of them just because it gives off a really good color scheme for it. How I imagine endorphins in my body, to give it a physical sense, is that pulsation that you get in a scene sometimes when the scene's real good. That's the endorphins doing their job. They're rushing through you because you're having a damn good time. One common factor of all endorphins is that they are our body's natural pain reliever. So, say you are a budding masochist, right? Over time, your pain tolerance will increase because the more that you work with your dominant, you will have more endorphin release and another chemical release that I will get to momentarily, but I'm mainly talking about this one right now. Endorphins, another way, like I've said on this page, is it's that floaty feeling. Like, who here is into BDSM 100% for a fact? Raise your hand. Oh, I'm corrupting so many of you. Holy shit. Okay, so for the room who doesn't know, oh my God, you're just like watching me because I'm pretty? Oh, thanks. Oh, anyway, so BDSM is bondage, discipline, sadism, and masochism. Not to mansplain, just to get anybody in on the know of why is there a little lady in latex yelling at us about our brains. That's why we're talking about it, because we in BDSM beat the hell out of each other, and we need to make damn sure that we're doing it right and not traumatizing people. Yeah. So onward to the other lovely chemicals. Oxytocin. Remember, like, I don't know, 2 seconds ago when I said, I'm gonna bring up another chemical that's a pain reliever and it'll make sense. Here I am making it make sense for everybody. Oxytocin is the love chemical. It is stored in the brain's ball sac. This is how I remember what I can't even say its name anymore because I call it the brain's pod. Thank you, pituitary. You are beautiful. Thank you. Oh, it was you. You are, both of you. You're both beautiful. You have a lovely smile, so that's why I was like, woo. Anyway. Anyway, this gland, which again, I will say it for the room and for the friends who are just joining, this is the brain's ball sac. You're not gonna be able to unsee it because I can't unsee it. This hormone has a positive feedback loop, and what a positive feedback loop is it can keep feeding on itself. It can keep getting that sustainability from itself. So oxytocin, the more that you play with a partner, the more that you love them, the more that you trust them, the more that you communicate with them, the more that you negotiate with them, the deeper the play is going to be, the more intimate the play is going to be. And that is because we're getting oxytocin. And oxytocin, in my personal opinion, is that good shit. I love it when I get into a scene with one of my dedicated subs and we get that oxytocin going, because then it gets really intimate and really sensual and very, very sweet. And a lot of people wouldn't, guess that there's a lot of love that goes into BDSM. I know that I'm literally wrapped in a bullwhip that I do know how to use and will willingly use, but I will do it with love and with care, because that's what I was trained to do. So moving on, let's talk about testosterone. That is the chemical that primarily affects your sex drive. Formed originally in one's genitals, testosterone plays a large part in our brain chemistry. This is often led to believe to be like the macho whatever chemical, but that actually can't be further from the truth. Testosterone does have something to do with one's anger at somewhat, like a little baby bit. It has been blown way out of proportion in the medical field. So it forms almost all of the components of sexual behavior, and the more sexual behavior will in turn will fuel more testosterone to grow. So 99% of the time when adrenaline is going on and adrenaline is pumping in a scene, you will also have testosterone in and on there. It's actually, testosterone is linked to increasing aggression, but there are theories that suggest otherwise, as I was saying. It's an evolving study, hence why I don't have any links up here yet. But it was done in, I want to say 2014. Please don't quote me though. I'm kinky Google, but time dilation is a bitch because I have really bad ADHD. So I'd be spatially unaware sometimes. I believe it was in 2014, but it was a survey conducted by a college where they studied the chemical balances between MS partners. And MS, for those who don't know, is master-slave, or masochist and sadist, but it's normally master-slave, master-servant. Shout out to Depeche Mode, but I'm a very big Depeche Mode fan. I believe that all Depeche Mode should be playing in dungeons at all times. So they conducted this study, and it was actually showing that the more bottom or submissive partners were presenting with more testosterone, which is quite curious if we want to link testosterone to aggression, because a lot of people, when you think of aggression, I'm going to assume here we think of DOMs, because that's what I get. I get labeled as aggressive all the damn time, simply because my name is the Commandant. So, testosterone, although, yes, it does increase aggression, that is not the only thing that it increases. It can also increase your libido. It can decrease it. Low testosterone, what might be the explanation for why somebody has a low sex drive. The same for if it's on the higher end of things. They might have a higher sex drive because they have a higher testosterone level. And now we understand why mental health matters. I hope that we all know that mental health matters, but just in case you don't know, it does. It very much does. It's called mental illness, meaning your brain is sick when it's going through it. So, thanks to puritanical values in our world, kinks and fetishes and overall BDSM have been treated as paraphilias. This is a stigma that I could go on in itself with a lesson on. This has been a constant problem. It started in around the Victorian age, I want to say, but a little bit before that. A study was published that showed BDSM participants, remember that one that I was talking about 2 seconds ago? It also showed that BDSM participants to be less neurotic, open to more newer experiences, more conscientious, less rejection sensitive, and a higher subjective well-being than non-kink controlled participants. So when you think about that, it starts to make sense when you hear the phrases like safe, sane, consensual, risk-aware consensual kink, personal responsibility, informed consensual kink. That one's a really huge mouthful, much like a lot of the people on, the show floor. Anyway, so it makes it make sense a little bit that we're supposed to be kinking intentionally. Even if it is for content or for a whim. Your brain is still going through so damn much, so many different pathways are being activated, so many different things are being lit up. It's important to be realistic about your mental health when you're going into this, because there will be things that you won't even be aware of that could be triggered. So this is the biggest fun fact that I am going to drop with all of you today. Our brains are our body's largest sex organ. You gotta stimulate the brain. And in order to stimulate the brain, you gotta know how to stimulate it. You gotta know what the hell you're stimulating, right? Because you could stimulate it in a bad way and you would have no idea. Traumas and BDSM, traumatic things, kind of almost go hand in hand. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. What I'm saying is there are certain fetishes, certain kinks out there that trigger mental health things. Harder kinks a lot of the time, but somebody could be triggered with an over-the-knee spanking because they were beat as a child. And if you ask before a scene, you can mitigate and you can knock out a possible drop state. You can possibly knock out not traumatizing this individual again. And that is why it is super important. It's important to know what your partner is experiencing with their own mental health when you're scening with them, or even getting intimate with them at all. Sex in general, outside of the whips and latex and all that fun stuff, like when the hat and the wig come off at the end of the day, I'm still a human being and I still need my needs met. I have CPTSD. That is a debilitating mental illness. I'm in therapy twice a month for it. If I wasn't in therapy for that, I would be trauma regurgitating horrible ideals and horrible things onto my submissives. I would be continuing that cycle of abuse. And that is why I'm presenting this to everybody today, so that way we cannot continue to perpetuate cycles of possible abuse amongst BDSM participants. With trauma, you don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to. If you would like to, that would be very brave, and I would appreciate it from future clinician me. Who here has trauma? So sorry, that makes me so sad. That's a really large amount of hands, but it's real. It exists. We don't need to not talk about it. In fact, the more that we talk about it and the more that we work through it, the more that it helps. It gets it out of your system. And if you haven't read this book before, I highly recommend it. I reread it at least once or twice a year. It's Your Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. He's a doctor. He's a fantastic trauma clinician. He has a lot of theories around trauma, but in this book, Your Body Keeps the Score, he explains that our bodies, they store our trauma in certain areas, and that can affect our day-to-day lives, which in further practice after this book, it's actually been proven to be somewhat true. Your body does keep the score. When somebody is going through a traumatic memory versus just a regular memory, it still registers as a memory, but it's like a super memory because your brain is a quantum computer. So your brain, when you're going through that trauma, when you're re-experiencing that trauma, your body, its genetic coding at the time of your trauma, it goes back to that. That's why you feel it all over again. That's why you can smell that smell so vividly. That's why sometimes it's disorientating to just look around and not know where you are. That is very real. It's because traumatic memories register as super memories. I hope that made that pipeline make sense. If I didn't, ask questions after, please, because the brain is like my favorite thing. In BDSM, we do a lot of intentional beating. We do a lot of intentional physical, endurance-based things. I'm a workout fetishist. I will make somebody work out for me all day long if they will let me. I will stare at it all day. Realistically, that would cause great trauma to their joints, and they wouldn't be very elastic for me to utilize afterwards. So I can't do that, although I would love to. So all about Dom space. Who here, raise of hands, identifies as a Dom or top or both? Ooh, okay. Ooh, wow, okay. I have so many more questions. I was expecting more hands, but that's what you get from assuming, Commandant. You make an ass out of yourself. So, most people who can place their dominance in a mentality, and hi, I raised my hand too. I'm 100% painfully a Dom top. It's to my own detriment because I'm also a whore. So it sucks when you meet another really hot Dom top and you just kind of stare at each other like, we're gonna fight. This is what this is gonna be. We're just gonna fight and we're gonna be horny about it the entire time. For me, my Dom space feels like the utmost feeling of confidence. My hands vibrate, but in a good way, not in like a nerve pain type of way. My eyes dilate, I hone in. I've been told I have a predatorial stare when I'm horny. I've also been called an apex predator, but that's besides the point. Dominance, we all have our own ways of putting words to it, honestly. And there's no black or white way to be dominant, nor submissive, nor switch. These lifestyles and headspaces are so fluid. So as long as you are exploring Dom space, whether it be through physical, mental, spiritual acts, do it safely and you'll be fine. Don't worry about what somebody's gonna think of you. Be yourself. It gave me the confidence that I needed to do this. I have social anxiety, y'all. I suck at people, normally. Here this is my third go at it too. So like, and I love doing it. I love talking to all of you, but I still shake occasionally. I still get that heartbeat thumping, you know, I still get a little nervous, but being the commandant, I'm able to do it for y'all because I want to help everybody. And that kind of overrides the social anxious button. So how do I achieve Dom space? How can you achieve Dom space? Maybe you're curious about it. Regular everyday tasks, honestly. Again, I know that I look like a stereotypical femdom right now. I promise you I do. I know exactly how I look. I dress this way so people give me tips, okay? It's hard out here. I traveled from Texas. That shit's expensive. But I can do and be the commandant in sweatpants if I want to. It is all based on who you are. So for me, what helps me is I listen to particular music. I wear specific clothing items such as stockings, high heels, this lovely hat, which I'm obsessed with, latex. These are all things that make me feel like the commandant. For somebody else, it might be a specific color of lipstick. It might be a specific way they style their hair, because that's one for me. I have to look like Betty Page or I don't want it. So it's all dependent on you. Maybe you're a dominant who only likes using certain paddles. You don't like using whips. You don't like using floggers. It's too much. You just want to use a paddle. Cool. You're still a dominant. That's your prerogative. If that helps you get into headspace, that helps you get into headspace. Basically, what it's saying in every shape or form, I've even written about ritualistic acts in BDSM. You are establishing a pattern for yourself. And that pattern, especially when you have physical items such as latex, so hair, hat, you get the picture. It registers in your brain more. And then you get into pattern recognition. You get into training your own self to be like, okay, I'm wearing black lipstick. My face is contoured in a certain way. I'm the commandant. I'm coded into that brain. I'm coded into that mindset now. So let's talk about drop momentarily, because I know that I'm trying real hard, but again, I ramble with this subject. I really like talking about this lesson. So Dom drop is basically what goes up must come down. It is a depressive state that a dominant can get after a scene. Drops can happen anywhere from directly after a scene to up to 2 weeks, even a month. I've recalled a scene that didn't go so well and it caused me to drop, and that scene happened like 4 months ago. It happens sometimes. You just realize where you fucked up and you're like, oh, I'm really bummed out about that. And then, you know, you could be stressed, you could have other outside factors going on that could cause you to drop even further. So ideally, to negate drops and to help not have them as much, you do aftercare. Who here has heard the statement, Doms need aftercare too? Show of hands. Oh, bless. Oh, good. Okay, that was more hands than I was expecting. Thank God. We're doing something right in this world. Yes, Doms absolutely need aftercare. I had a session last night. It was a 2-hour session, lots of high intensity hole drilling. You know, I was drilling for oil and I got gold. I cuddled him afterwards. I'm a professional dominant. I do everything compartmentalized, but he was cute, he was respectful, I had a great time with him, and I wanted to snuggle a little bit before he left. And it helped me a lot because this convention is fucking tiring. Yeah. And I was here all day. So it was needed for me. That was my aftercare. I just needed a quick little snuggle. Another scientific term for drop states in any sense, this can be with Dom space, switch space, subspace. It's called postcoital dysphoria. So it's a drop state that happens before any type of intimacy or sex, and it is actually quite normal. I don't think that you should feel guilty. Obviously, examine it, make sure that the partner that you're with is safe and okay, and that they didn't cause the drop from like being a dickhole or anything. Obviously, don't let them guilt you about said drop either. And see if you evaluate it, you can see what happened. You can then go into further negotiations with your sexual partner, or drop them if that's needed. And hopefully with the further negotiations, you'll be able to not have such a bad drop. All right, by show of hands, who here has heard of this term? Who here has heard of Dom frenzy? Oh, okay, welcome. All right, Dom frenzy. Also, if I don't get to it because my alarm bonks off, which I should be able to, everything I'm saying about Dom space, just flip it and put it in a subcontext. That's basically the same for subspace. But Dom frenzy normally happens when somebody is new to the scene, but it does happen with experienced players. A lot of us, I've sipped the silly bitch juice a lot as a dominant. I have made some major mistakes. It typically happens to newer players, but not always, as I just said. A frenzied state is almost like, who here has heard the term manic? Raise a hand. Okay. Kinky mania. This is just kinky mania. This is dom mania. They will be acting irresponsibly. They will be ignoring safe words. They will be encouraging unhealthy behaviors. They might be kinking and drinking a little too hard. No shame to that. It is unsafe in my opinion, but that's just me. If you know your limit, you know your limit. But they're like, what I mean by kinking and drinking unsafely, like they're going to the dungeon, picking up the youngest person there, getting them shit-faced drunk, and then taking them home.
Oh no.
Exactly. Hell no. We're not doing that. We do not tolerate grooming, at least in this house. So now let's learn about the submissives. Who here, with a show of hands, identifies as submissive? Ooh, the submissives are beating y'all doms. Y'all are slacking. Y'all think y'all know everything. Meanwhile, the submissives are here to learn. I respect all positions. All of y'all are people, but I do want to give y'all shit. Good job, submissives. But who, because I don't have it in this lesson, who here identifies as a switch? Nice. Okay, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking there were a lot of you little switches in here. I love y'all. Y'all get a lot of shit in the industry and in just regular lifestyle BDSM, y'all get shit for no reason. Please know, I respect you and I love you and I love to utilize your greatness. So subspace. Subspace is that hazy feeling that submissives go through. I have heard it being described as, I'm floating on clouds, mistress. I just feel so light and so free and so refreshed. That's what I always hear. Back in me baby kinky days, I started as a submissive. And the feeling that I got was that safe, whole, like, and not H-O-L-E, I mean W-H-O-L-E. It felt like a warm embrace every time that I got to seen. It felt like I was seen and that I was heard, and that even if I did wrong, it wasn't the end of the world. I was very guided and supported, although it wasn't, I shouldn't have been submitting when I was, if you guys catch my drift. But it was still a very sweet type of sensation that I would get from the multiple dominants over the years that I saw. And as I said here, I mention it here, I'm always running against myself. In 2008, I was completely wrong about the year. 2 studies found that cortisol, your stress hormone, rose significantly in those with submissive role in play versus the dominant role. Told you that it's a study in 2008 that happened. But a lot of people compare subspace to being drunk, but like a pleasant drunk, or like a really pleasant sativa high. I would say sativa, but if you're being bound and you're doing a lot of sensation play with your body, then probably an indica type of high for sure. So how can you achieve subspace? Just like I said with the dominant portion of this lesson, collars. There are different types of collars, which again is its own different lesson. But collars are one of the most #1 signifying things. And a collar can be anything. It can be a regular day necklace, like just something that you and your dominant picked out. It can be a bracelet. It can be an anklet. It can be a ring. It can be a keychain. If you need that item, it can be anything that you make it to be. It is all about the intent of what you and your submissive have negotiated with each other within your own dynamic. There are different types of collars, obviously. The ones that I was mentioning were for day collars. Normally you want those to be a little bit more discreet, so that way if you go into a conservative area like, oh, I don't know, Texas, and you are out, I'm not walking my hounds at the park on a leash. I wish I could, it would be great PR, but I'll get arrested for public indecency. So, another thing that I suggest is, especially for submissives, but also dominants, everybody really, practicing mindfulness and meditation. And meditation is different for everybody. Even those with crippling CPTSD or ADHD, with a very busy mind, anxious minds, you can meditate. It's not all about quieting the mind, more about controlling the thoughts, managing the thoughts. And I know that that's easier said than done, but if you are simply still being still and doing intentional breathing while your brain, I have 50 tabs open right now, and one of them's playing rock and roll McDonald's at all times, and I can never close it. Trust me when I say I understand a busy brain. I am thinking about what I'm going to be doing 6 months from now while I stand right here in front of y'all. But for me to meditate, when I'm flogging, I get into a meditative headspace because it's a stim thing for me, because I flow to music. When I listen to music with both headphones on and I'm writing, that is meditation for me. It's me controlling my mind. It is me moving that energy through my body the best way that I know how. Meditation is all about mastering that energy that you're holding, that uncertain energy. So do your best with it. Do something that relaxes you if you have to be busy with it. If not, there's guided courses on YouTube that fuck pretty hard. I'm just saying. A lot of them, like the guided sleep ones, those fuck. I love those. As somebody who has to sleep in a new area every now and again, they help so much. But dominance, you can task your submissive with meditation practices. Hey, your new daily task is to meditate for me 15 minutes a day. You have to tell me when it's done. And then you can give them a reward based on however many times you want to do that and all of that jazz. Another wonderful way is having, like, you know how dominance, like when you think femdom, I'm sure this is, I get it, you know. And for male doms, it's normally like they're all in leather. And of course, I'm out of time, but I'll continue just a minute. But you have that uniform. Give yourself that uniform. And for me to blow through sub-drop, so this is continuous, and I don't see tabs real quick, and I'm the last one. Sub-drop, same exact space as dom drop. If you drop after a scene with a dominant, and this is very, very much coded for submissives, you are always able to advocate for yourself. There's no dominant that can hold you legally liable in anything. There's no dominant that can actually hurt you. If you are actually being extorted, if you are being hurt, if you are not being respected in your dynamic, leave. There are so many doms. There are hundreds of us. You can walk out on that floor and you will see a different font of me every 5 steps. There are plenty of options, and there's somebody out there who will respect you like you deserve. Just because you're submissive doesn't mean you're a doormat. Your feelings are valid always. And if a dominant dumbs that down in a bad way, then they're not the one for you. Sub-frenzy. So, like I said with dom frenzy, this is submania. This is presented as the submissive that goes, I have no limits, mistress. Do whatever you want to me. Every time I get told that, I offer them a lobotomy. For free. Free lobotomy. They run because, yeah, you know. This is shown in kinking and drinking a little too much, getting a little too silly on the dumb bitch juice. Dom hopping. So say they were just in a dynamic for 3 years, and then they're out of that dynamic and it's been like 2 weeks, and they're with somebody else, and then that lasts a month. Excuse me. And then they're single for like another couple weeks, and then they find another dominant, and then this cycle keeps fucking continuing. At some point, this submissive is gonna have to realize that they are the common denominator and why their relationships aren't working. Don't do that. Don't be that sub. Know your worth. You are worth so much. Although you are submissive, you are a human being first. You need to be respected as a human being before somebody disrespects you as a dog. So dom frenzy and sub frenzy are basically the same thing. But I believe, final thoughts, yes, and then I can flip through this. Basically the point of this lesson, and then I will shut my mouth because I'm 2 minutes over. The point of this lesson is to basically show everybody that our brains are going through a lot. It's more than just 50 Shades of Grey. It's more than just, you're gonna wear sexy panties for me tonight, and that's it. It's more than what you see on the porn. There's so much that goes into it. There's so much love. There's so much care, and there's so many chemicals that are beautiful and budding, and you guys absolutely deserve to know about all of them. And I just hope that I got to wow you. I hope that you got as excited about them as I did. But for the sake of not continuing any cycles like being late and running out of time, that will be all. Please come say hi to me, stop me for pictures, whatever you want. Yoink a business card from me. I will be trying to leave, to go home because the convention's closing soon. But I will sit and answer whatever questions you have, I promise. But you guys have a good night. Thank you for coming.
Are you here tomorrow?
I am here tomorrow, yes. I'm not speaking tomorrow, but I will be on the convention floor. Talk to me, please.